Hey, everybody. So good to see you. Kendall Bonner here again with another great friend of mine who's in the prop tech space, Will Grewal. He is the co-founder of Homestack, which he started back in 2015, a really cool tech company. I'm a client. But even more than that, we really have become colleagues and friends in this industry. We've seen each other at different industry events. We've hung out. We've had lunch. We chill. He's such a great guy and such a great leader and has just this really great, amazing tool, this great knowledge. And so I just thought it would be fun to bring my friend into this space and get to pick his brain, share his journey, and talk about some really cool things as it relates to real estate and technology and how it's impacting and changing our world. So thank you, Will, for being here with me today. I appreciate you so freaking much.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so let's start out with your journey.
Yep.
You went to college and then, did you start your tech journey right out of school or during school, before school? Just tell me where this interest in technology started. Let's start there, the beginning.
Yeah. So early on in my life, sports and Wall Street and finance was a passion. And going to college, I was super, super lucky. I randomly partnered up with my roommate. His name's Matthew Potter. Fast forward several years, Matthew became my co-founder of Homestack. And so it was a very romantic college roommate story. But what I quickly found out back in the late 2000s, early 2010s is the new Wall Street was Silicon Valley, and technology just became a very strong passion for both of us. Matt himself was building computers since the age of 8, software since 18, and he's actually a third generation real estate agent. So we had a really, really strong domain of expertise in real estate specifically. But no, we've always kind of had a passion for technology, serving people, innovating, and solving complex problems.
All right. Well, what was the first company you started? It's tell us about that.
Yeah. So we started Exuro Marketing Concepts. It was a mobile app development company. And the name means in Latin to ignite. And so at this time, Yahoo was out, Bing was out, Google was out, Zynga was out. And, for some reason, we were we need to create a funky name that no one can remember, no one can spell. I was getting checks written out to me in all different languages, and I couldn't get word of mouth marketing taking place because no one knew how to pronounce our name. Yet we thought it was the right thing to do. What we did is we built custom technology, specifically iPad apps for restaurants and small businesses. And it was really genius. We really had a lot of fun doing it. And essentially, we were giving out the technology almost at cost, and we were monetizing on the back end as the merchant processor. So anytime a credit card was swiped, we were able to monetize on it. It was a ton of fun. We had a lot of early success. Then fast forward 4 years, this company called Square, small little company, Jack Dorsey Square. I don't know if you've heard of them. They thought it was a good idea to just wipe us out, and we had to pivot.
Pivoting. A few of us have had to do that a few times.
Yeah.
So you pivoted, and then is that how you ended up with Homestack?
In a way, yeah. So, I think one of the key characteristics of entrepreneurship is not only resiliency, but also, having a very strong domain and expertise. And then kind of going back to kind of Matt's roots, his dad being the founder and president of Pinnacle Estate Properties, a very successful residential real estate brokerage down here in LA. We were able to get in the mind of an agent and understand exactly what complex problems were taking place in that moment. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, mobile was blowing up, and guilty hand up, I had a BlackBerry, but I always knew that from a coding standpoint, everything was shifting towards iOS, which is Apple, and then the Google Play Store, Android. I'd made a very early bet that the App Store was going to completely blow up, and that it was going to be the number one driver in regards for consumers getting information in the time we're in today.
That's super smart. That's interesting. So, tell us a little bit about Homestack, what it does, who it's for, how does it work?
Yeah. Yeah, so Homestack is a real estate tech company. We build mobile apps at scale, personalized for agents, teams, and brokerages. And it's centered around search and collaboration.
Hmm.
And to date, we've had over 10 million user sessions on our platform where people are looking to buy a home, sell a home, get more information on the listing, acts as a pocket MLS for the agents. And most importantly, our goal here at Homestack is to help accelerate the process from discovery to close, leveraging key data for all decision makers.
Interesting. Okay. So that actually kind of makes sense for me, especially with what I really want to talk to you about, which is the home search process, right? And real estate, in the real estate space and how that's evolved, because there was a time where way before apps, we had like a book, right? I mean, that was before my time. I'll be perfectly honest. I wasn't in real estate back then. I was a lawyer first, then I got into real estate in 2011, just to be clear. I don't want to offend anybody, but, I do know there was a time where back in the 80s, 90s, even, I think, right before the web evolution, that we were using paper to sell houses and to market them at a, so tell us about that. Like, what do you know about that and how things have changed? Let's talk where we started in the real estate search so we can fast forward to where we are and where we're going.
Totally. Heck, let's start before that. The art of search has been around since, day one. Whether you're Christopher Columbus back in 1492 looking for America, or you're looking for love and a soulmate to fall in love with. I mean, search has been such a key component, and it's been ingrained in human fabric and DNA since day one.
Yeah.
I think that there's three key characteristics to deconstruct when it comes to search. And like, one, you need to be patient yet opportunistic.
Yeah.
Two, you need to have the instincts yet be equipped with the best technology. And then three, let's face it, you need a little bit of luck, right? And so where I've seen real estate evolve, and this is kind of what I'm betting on in the future, is it's going to be less luck, more calculated. Yet all three of those characteristics are still going to very much be involved. I'd say when it comes to real estate specifically, I mean, you know better than anybody, this is the most stressful transaction or stressful decision that anyone in the world has to make. And they don't make it that often. And so really where I'm betting on with search is as this evolves, this stressful situation starts to get a little bit more fun, gets a little bit more innovative, it gets a little bit more liquid, and the decision-making process becomes a lot more easier for all stakeholders involved.
Yeah. So, when we talk about innovative and fun, I imagine it probably wasn't very fun in the, old school way where you had to walk into a real estate
Right.
and flip through a book and like page after page and, try to decipher which one might work, and probably not always in color. It's probably in black and white, a lot of print, where now we have not just color, and just data. Like, I'm sure we just actually collect more data now today than ever before, but we have Matterport, we have floor plans and 3D renderings and things like that are all now impacting our experience when we're looking at homes online. What's kind of your take on that too, with making it fun and innovative and stuff like that?
Totally. And to your point, there's been tons of innovation. And I do want to hit on a point that you mentioned earlier, like the analog era of like white papers and yellow pages. Like back in the day, the agent was the custodian of the data.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no other way for the consumer to get information on a neighborhood or on a property without communicating with the agent themselves. So like we like to call it the analog era from like 1980 to around the year 2000 with like the dot-com boom. And at this point, if you wanted any information at all, the agent acted as the gatekeeper. And when you talk about speed and instant gratification and the things that we are familiar with today, utilizing things like push notifications and Twitter, et cetera, like none of this existed. And we had to wait until Sunday. We had to pay our quarter. We had to receive our LA Times newspaper or the Tampa Times, depending on where you're located. And we got to see a few homes that were for sale. And so the process was extremely antiquated, but that's just how data was transmitted. It was through all analog services, and we're still seeing them to a certain extent here today. And I by no means do I want to bash them. I think that there is an ROI on radio and print marketing and farming and door knocking and all of this, but that was the way information was transported back in the day. And that's how people were able to transact in real estate for about the early times up until around the dot-com boom.
Yeah. And then the dot-com boom just changed everything, right? I mean, across all platforms,
Dot-com
all
boom,
industries.
dot-com boom, information era, digitization era. And like, I think like my hat goes off, tip of the cap to Rich and Spencer at Zillow, to Pete at Trulia, to Glenn at Redfin. And, you know, they were huge inspirations of mine as to why I started Homestack. And I think what they did, and, you know, this is kind of what we've seen here over the course of the last 10, 15 years, is really they created an educated consumer. They created an educated consumer, not necessarily flawlessly, but the Zestimate. And I'm not saying the Zestimate is right or wrong, but for the first time ever, someone can click, they can see a digitized experience, they can get information, and they can get some form of instant gratification in regards to a pretty wide delta of what their home may be worth. But it was kind of cool at the time.
Yeah.
And you can start seeing photos, and you can see map, and you can start to see open houses, and you can see areas like that you may not live in, and it reduced barriers for people who wanted to relocate. And so for the first time ever, we were able to leverage technology, and a more educated consumer was able to walk into the experience more educated than ever. And I think, you know, I kind of speak for myself, like there's a lot of times where I want to be in the driver's seat, but I need a co-pilot to make that decision with me. And I think that's kind of where we are here today.
Yeah. So when you say that, who do you envision as that co-pilot? Like, is that like the real estate agent now is the co-pilot when you use that metaphor? Is that what you're referring to?
Absolutely. I firmly believe that the real estate agent is vital and kind of like the sun of the universe when it comes to transacting. And I know that there is a lot of hype with, you know, people wanting to disintermediate the industry. Like the data tells me otherwise. And until I see anything, I can't not emphasize like that isn't the case. I think there was a survey that NAR came out with just a couple of weeks ago, where it shows consumers that wanted to use a real estate agent, and it's north of 90%. This is the highest clip that it's ever been,
Right.
Despite more innovation and more access at your fingertips. The co-pilot is even more valuable in an era like we are in today. So yeah, the real estate agent definitely is Batman to Robin.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's a good point, because you know, when you think about the evolution of the search, like you said, just to kind of recap and bring us forward, you know, the agent's value proposition was completely around like, hey, you need me even just to know what's available in the marketplace, right? Like not only you can't have access, but you can't see me or see it. And then now, and then there was after, you know, the internet, and we have MLSs and, you know, this aggregation of data online, then it became, the value became, hey, now you have information, but you can't have access unless you come through me, right? And then, but now we're seeing a shift away from access, meaning, you know, you have companies like Open Door and OfferPad who are putting their own lockboxes on homes, and consumer can go direct to product and bypass an agent for access to the actual product. And so there's this evolution in value, and agents are going to have to, you know, reinvent themselves yet again in terms of value proposition. And I think search is so connected to that, because I still think that we are necessary, much like you. I still think that we, you know, have, you know, it's through our knowledge, through our experience, and also too, I think even through our interpretation of what's happening in the marketplace. I mean, especially right now, you know, we're in the spring of 2023, and for the last, you know, I don't know, 9 months, we've been hearing fear and, you know, all kinds of craziness in the media about what's happening in the market. Is it going to crash? Is it going to crash? There's a recession, there's inflation, you know. houses,
Right.
housing, it's all going to burn down, right? And here we are in 2023, prices are still relatively stable. Interest rates are high, double what they were a year ago, but stable-ish at this point. And people are back to transacting again. And, the sky hasn't fallen. And so, the consumers left, I'm sure, confused. Like, wait, what's happening? Was it a good time to buy? Is it a bad time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? Bad time to sell? They're confused. And I feel like that's where a realtor can really be of value. What do you think?
Couldn't have said it better. Like the answer for buying or selling, like I always say, it depends. But at the same time, it's one of those situations where you can go fast by yourself, you can go further with others. And I think being able to really specialize, and like I envision life really simple, like the movie Ocean's 11. Be a specialist and be the best at what you can do. Outsource what you don't know. And I think that's exactly where this comes into play. Like, live your life, be the best, partner with Kendall and the Kendall Bonner team. Shameless plug right there. And, you'll be happy for the rest of your life.
Oh, thank you, my friend. So let's talk about the future of the real estate search. Like, what do you kind of predict is some of the next things that we're going to see going forward over the next, 5, 10 plus years? Like, where do you see it evolving?
Yeah, so I think like search as we've seen it here today, although there's been an improvement in regards to like the high barriers to entry, search has still been very like ones and zeros. And what I mean by that, it's been data in, data out. So I want 3 beds, 2 baths with this lot size. Okay, here you go. But there's absolutely no personalization in any of that. And so as I kind of look at trends, I always look at the younger generation. And what you've seen here recently is like, for better or worse, offices have turned into Zoom. Malls have turned into Amazon. Theaters have turned into Netflix. So like the screen is going to continue to be a driver when it comes to information. I do want to start kind of like with a story, and I hope that the parallels do align with it. But I read this thing 2 weeks ago, and it was that Netflix and HBO are dictating where Gen Z and millennials are vacationing. And so according to American Express, 70% of Gen Z and millennials have taken a vacation based off of what they've seen on the screen. And they're kind of like calling this the White Lotus effect. And this isn't new. I think marketing has always existed, but I want to say that the difference between marketing and technology from yesterday versus tomorrow is this: machine learning helped with suggestions, whereas I think AI is really driving decisions and action. And so when people ask me like, what can AI do for one another? It is reducing the high barrier of having to quantify and actually think about information. And it's creating an output that, based off of, we'll just call it 100 trillion data points, is the right decision for you. And now there's a lot to unpack there. I know there is a lot to unpack there, but I think the same principles are going to be applied to how search looks like into the future. And so right now, for Homestack specifically, again, Homestack.ai has been secured. There's some really exciting things that are happening in the lab. And I think that this is a time where deep thinking is required for the future of the whole entire industry. And more importantly, like I view the world where like data should be a weapon for the individual. Data shouldn't be a weapon against the individual with big tech. And you're starting to see this evolve day after day after day, specifically with the California Consumer Protection Act, and how individuals are going to be able to utilize their own data. Drawing parallel to the White Lotus story now. Imagine a world where, with all of this data and all of these endpoints, for some reason, if you like 27 Taylor Swift songs, if you booked a vacation to Milan if you go to a gym that's 1 mile away from where you're currently living and you're part of a golf club with millions of other data points, the output can be really personalized for you based off of a suggested search in which where you should move. And the only way this can become possible is if the consumer can actually allow permission to their data to a single level and a layer in which custom AI is built to create that output. And so really kind of my big bet, and I'll pause for a little break here. My big bet is that search becomes more than just beds and baths. Search becomes more than just 8 billion people on the earth searching in one portal. What search evolves to is 8 billion individual portals for individual people across the globe.
Wow. Okay. Couple of thoughts there. Number one, how did you know Taylor Swift is in concert here in Tampa today, right now? First of all, I don't know if
you know what?
That's literally happening today.
That's Homestack.ai already working.
But number two, like, so what's really interesting about what you just, described, I'm like, wow, super powerful, number one, concept and like vision. But number two, in some ways, we're already seeing that happen in micro ways, right? Like, for example, I was telling someone I needed, some help with video editing. And then all of a sudden in my Instagram and Facebook feed and like all the way, I'm getting bombarded with advertisements for video editing. I didn't even actually search it. I just said it out loud. Phones are listening, right? And, Facebook is listening, Amazon's listening all the time, I feel. And then all of a sudden, like these, solutions to my problem are being presented to me on a daily basis. So, so that predictive analytics are being utilized to like solve a problem, and maybe I must have searched it on my phone. In my mind, I didn't, but I believe they're all listening. But either way, what you're describing also says to me, it's like, the home search process becomes a solution to, a desired outcome or, a perceived problem, like, hey, they see you, searching for baby diapers and baby registry or wedding registry. And it's like, oh, it might be time for you to buy a house. Like, where would you like to go? And then it becomes about not just, like you said, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, but like lifestyle. Like, hey, you are someone that goes to the beach all the time. Wouldn't you just like to live closer there? Here's some really great deals, right? And opportunities for you to effectuate this dream that you might have for yourself. That's really kind of cool. This concept.
It's super cool, and I do think like the human mind is like sometimes prisoner of the moment and or like recency bias. And don't get me wrong, the brain is a very powerful organ to compute information. It's not going to beat a computer, and I truly do believe that, like, you've heard of Moore's law, where technology doubles in regards to power. It doubles in regards to speed and information at half the cost every single year. And Mike Del Prete, he said this quote, and I love it. It's that the industry has always moved slow, but it's never moved this fast before. And I truly believe that with every fiber in my body. Like, to your point, like utilizing search with lifestyle, I'm very bullish with that in the future. Utilizing it as an investment, owning fractional shares of real estate, like all of this decision making will be personalized for who you are, what you do, and your ambitions, and the trajectory in which you are moving forward. And at times, the human mind can't see the forest past the trees, but leveraging a solid algorithm, you can. And we're still in the infancy stage. Don't get me wrong. I'm checking out Twitter in the For You section, and it's just not very good yet, but it will be. And I want to be a part of that ride, and I want to enable the world, particularly with the real estate agent and the consumer, to have the best search experience in their life.
Yeah. And imagine as you're saying this, and it's got my brain kind of, going all creative. And imagine too a search where it says, hey, the only thing that matters is location. So we found this house with this price and it looks like this, but let's show you what it could look like if you invest $10,000. And like, now it looks like this. And it takes a home that, most people will walk into a home and it's in the right neighborhood, the right price, but it's got this feature, that feature, like, oh, the kitchen's outdated, so therefore I won't buy it. Not realizing like, hey, if I show you AI and I partner with, and I have you partner with a Curbio or some sort of renovator or handyman or whatever, and then like, here, spend $10,000, and now you have this brand new kitchen, brand new bathroom. Now is the house perfect for you? And like most consumers aren't capable of doing that level of like research and creativity on their own. And imagine if we implemented AI to do that. Wow, how that would change the home search and the home experience, the home purchasing experience. It's like, hey, buy this house, this lot, this is what it could look like with this level of investment. Boom, right?
And you're completely right. I think right now, when it comes to search, albeit amazing, it's beds, it's bathrooms, it's kitchens, it's does this need a remodel? And I think in the future, it's going to be very much more blueprint driven, meaning these are the capabilities. We know if this is a weight bearing wall already, and technology is going to create efficiencies to provide you with, did you know it can look like this? And based off of our inputs, you want something that looks like this. So it's essentially providing, instead of like, like a traditional line graph of like an X and a Y axis, it's adding that three-dimensional Z axis for you to really see everything. And Curbio is an awesome example there. And what you mentioned before to start this off, like Matterport's doing amazing innovation for giving that spatial awareness of not just giving a flat 2D look at what a property can look like, really a three-dimensional outlook on it. So I do think blueprints, suggested repairs and improvements for the investment standpoint, and a lot of the recommendations will be fueled around ROI.
Yeah. And then the last thing I was thinking about, like, based on what you're telling me, is like, I wonder too, how blockchain will impact, this whole process and experience. It's not something that I think a lot of agents talk about or know about. But I think it's definitely going to impact the industry. And, once that becomes something that's like, national and at a global level, right, where we're recording data in micro chunks and like super detailed information about a property. Again, having that data at your fingertips as someone searching for a home, knowing like, hey, this home was built by not just this builder, but this subcontractor, and these specific windows were, installed from this specific contractor on this specific date. And like, just that level of detail, I'm sure consumers will have information overwhelm and information overload.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like, again, that could be critical. They already get a ton of information now, more than they used to, and they manage. Like, I just feel with the younger generations, I think whether they care about that data or not, they'll want to know that they have access to it. Right? Do you agree, disagree?
Absolutely. You are preaching to the choir, my lady. Blockchain is huge, and we can segment episode 2.0 and just talk about blockchain in general. I think that the level of operational automation that you can generate brings an amazing edge over the traditional process, with transparency, with efficiency. I think digital certificates are easier to trade. You're opening up possibilities for trading ventures and bringing secondary markets of liquidity into the environment. Even just kind of talking all of this through, like the traditional way of searching for properties has always been like price, high to low, days on market, high to low. But really where I think, using some of these things, it can be optimized by sorting on a per user basis. And I always go back to that. But I do think blockchain is going to be integral in the future of prop tech for sure. And how that lines up with the searching process is still to be determined. But I do think at a ledger standpoint, it will be included in the real estate transaction moving forward.
Awesome. Well, Will, this has been amazing. You are amazing. You're so smart, and I love your innovative mind and the genius behind all the things that you do. It's been really fun to get to know that and get to experience that with you and have this like really fun, nerdy conversation, I like to say, because anything tech, I just associate with being nerdy, and it's my thing. So I have 3 questions for you today. I like to end these with, and those are my what's next questions. So my first question for you is, I know that you travel to conferences a ton, just like me. I've seen you. That's typically where I see you. And we've been at a few together in the past. What's your next event that you're going to? That's a must attend event.
The next event I'm heading to is actually the first time I'm attending this event. It's going to be Gathering of the Eagles, that I think you're very familiar with yourself, in Austin in June.
That's awesome.
So I'm really excited for that one.
That one will be a good one. I went last year to Gathering of the Eagles in Boulder, Colorado Springs. Anyway, it was in Colorado.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. And there was like deer just randomly walking across the street. But it was a really great conference. I really enjoyed it because it, everyone was together through the whole experience, and there was a lot of time built in for networking, and it felt very intimate.
Incredible
Perspective. So I know you'll enjoy Gathering of the Eagles, and you have to let me know how it is this year. I will be out of town during that event, so I won't be there this year, but I know it'll be amazing. My next, what's next question is, what's the next project for you or investment? Like what's the next thing?
Totally. A lot of it is in line with kind of what we've just discussed, but a lot of it is based around predictability, data, and really being able to serve up the suggested properties on behalf of the consumer. And so we are so heads down right now. I truly do believe that this is the golden age for mobile and information. And like the work put in here today is going to be a force multiplier for tomorrow. So I think it's just familiarizing yourself with, the future and not being afraid to take certain risks, leveraging data and bringing the consumer closer with the agent on the collaborative search.
That's awesome. And then my last what's next question. I believe everyone should do something personal and for fun and just for themselves. It's not related. What's your next vacation? Where are you going?
I'm really good at that too. Just came off of Santa Barbara this past weekend with my lovely fiance. My next vacation, the big one, it's going to be a family vacation, and we're heading out to Yellowstone, Jackson Hole in July. And I have a cousin who's getting married, and it's really cool. My dad's joining, my brother, sister-in-law, my sister. We've got a huge cabin, so the whole Grewal house is going to be, packed out in Jackson Hole, and I've never been there before, so super excited to check it out.
That is awesome. I can't wait to hear about it, because I know that's a place my husband really wants to go. So when we see you in Las Vegas at Inman Connect this year, I expect a full breakdown of that trip and how beautiful it was with pictures, please.
You betcha. I think it's 2 weeks before Inman, so you'll get the fresh stories.
That's right. I can't wait. Well, thank you again, Will. I appreciate you and the entire team at Homestack. You guys are amazing. Love working with you, and always love seeing you at the various events. And it's really great to share your knowledge with this audience. I think they'll really value and appreciate it. And I appreciate your time so much. Thank you.
Kendall, thank you.